yesterday, or well, yeah, yesterday and last night, where I'm from, it just rained all day and stormed all day and all night. And this morning, well, actually, it started, you know, yesterday. I messaged somebody, telling them that it's, been, raining, all day. And then I said, but much was needed. And I mean, besides them not responding, I mean, that's not really the point where I'm going with it. Where I'm going is I started to think, well, how often do we as human beings, whenever it rains a whole lot like it did yesterday where I'm from, do we say it rained too much or like it wasn't needed? Um, because we often go, well, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. And when you think about that from, you know, looking at like the crops and things like that, it looks like, and, at the moment, and that's what I'm going to talk about soon, um, in the moment. But like in the moment, it looks bad. Or, for the amount of rain that we got is bad for if planted um, like early, like for, crops, too much can be a bad thing there. However, um, oftentimes, whenever, you know, it hardly rains at all, we say, well, it could have rained more, right? And let me just say, like, why do we think that we are more wise than God is? I mean, think about it from this perspective. The Lord, oftentimes, when He sends a huge amount of rain, like He did, yesterday where I'm from, y- it's because He has already seen the days ahead. And He's just preparing the ground for those days ahead. You know, that's probably a good reason why. And then for the days um, that it seems like there's not enough rain, I think God sometimes is saying we just have to learn as human beings to be okay. And I'm actually speaking to myself uh, at this point. Um, we just got to be okay with that manna bread. Yes, I hear you loud and clear, Lord. You're speaking to me. But but honestly, let the Lord also speak through me to you as well, because that's one of the things that the Lord showed me as I was looking outside this morning and seeing all the rain that we got, and then thinking about the times when it barely rains. And it was like, Well, sometimes we just gotta be okay with just enough. The Lord oftentimes likes to do that, where He gives us just enough to keep going. And so, and so sometimes we gotta be okay with just enough. Other times we gotta understand that the Lord has already seen the days ahead. And so that's why we're getting, at the moment, it seems like too much of a good thing. And especially for those that, plant, right? Um, but there's not much that you can do there, except maybe plant a little bit later next season. I'm I mean I really can't say but um just a thought, but because that's also a thought that came to my mind, because this year I was like, well, I'm going to plant a garden, and we'll see whether or not that you know what I planted grows or not. But I started to think, well, maybe I might have planted a little too early, and maybe I should have, like, I don't know, because again, too much of a good thing. But what can I do about it? I don't have the now. The Lord gives us the authority at times, and here's another interesting thing: the Lord, at times, He does give us the Holy Spirit, the authority, from the Holy Spirit, to say, you know what, storm, cease in the name of the Lord, and it will. I can testify to that. However, there are some storms that you're not going to be able to cease. Why? Because, well, there's some storms that are actually sent by the Lord Himself. Do you think that you're going to be able to rebuke a storm that God sent Himself, that He wants you to walk in? Or, like, do you think that if God sent the storms that He sent yesterday where I'm from, that you're going to be able, because that would, at that point, you're out of His will. At that point, you rebuking the storm that He sent is out of His will. Now, there's times when you rebuke the storm and it goes away because it's not His will that there was a storm. It might have been sent by someone else, or like something else or whatever. And so, or maybe he that's not originally what he had planned. And so, yeah, like, rebuking those storms that he doesn't send, yeah, those will go away. But rebuking these storms that are sent by God Himself will never go away, because if you try that, you're outside of His will. And that's another thing that I, got to thinking um, about. And so I just wanted to spend time, telling you what my takeaway from all of these storms from where I was.